Welcome to another episode of Terms of Service. I'm Claire Duffy. I'm here in the studio today with investor and entrepreneur Frank McCourt. He is the chairman of McCourt Global, a family office that invests in real estate, sports, and tech. He is also the founder of Project Liberty, an organization that we'll be talking about in just a moment. I interviewed Frank back in March along with investor Kevin O'Leary at South by Southwest about their bid to buy TikTok, an effort that was about more than just buying a very popular platform, but really about rethinking the relationship between big tech platforms, their users, and their personal data. TikTok has not yet sold, but it is inching closer to that milestone. We're going to talk about that, but we're also going to talk about what you are thinking about now, which is the next phase of the internet, the AI era. We're going to talk about what you're working on and Frank's advice for people about how to protect their personal information in the AI era. Frank, thank you for being here.
It's nice to be with you, Claire.
So your career has taken a bunch of different twists and turns. You were the former owner of the Dodgers. You have this whole investment portfolio, but that is not all of what you do. You also have been interested in how the internet works, how to improve the internet. Talk to me about where that interest came from.
Yeah, that's right. I'm particularly interested in this subject matter right now, which is why I founded Project Liberty 6 years ago, to really focus on this, because we're at a moment where this technology has really taken over our lives and in not so pleasant ways. And so, I had my own experiences with social media back in 2010 and 11 when I was going through a very public divorce. And I really thought at that time, like, wow, this is heading in a strange direction. And I thought at the time, going back to 2012, maybe the way to intervene here would be to focus on our public policy making apparatus and see if we could get our public policy makers to better understand how this internet technology was being centralized and co-opted by a few big players, and maybe get our policy making out in front of that.
That was optimistic.
Yeah. As I say, it was perhaps naive in retrospect, but I can tell you it was well-intended. And we founded a public policy school or helped found a public policy school in Washington, D.C. with Georgetown University. And it's a great school right on Capitol Hill in the heart of all this. But I realized, Claire, over the course of 2 or 3 years that the policy-making apparatus in this country is no match for the speed, the power, the wealth, and the brute force of this internet technology and of big tech. That's when I shifted to the actual infrastructure and focusing on the technology stack. How would you change how the stack works in order to really solve the problem? The problem being these big tech platforms are scraping and accumulating our data, micro profiling us, and now they're not just selling us ads, but they're manipulating us. And so we believe that if you can put people back in charge of their data, that's what's called data sovereignty, or ownership and control of your data, or owning your virtual you, put it in whatever terms you like. Our data is our personhood in a digital age. Everything about us is now, quote, owned, end quote, by these big platforms. And that's fundamentally wrong. We should own ourselves, and we should share what we want to share about ourselves on a permission basis and with knowledge. This idea that we give up all of our data for free apps is, in my mind, just a really bad deal.
So that is the mission now of Project Liberty, right? And in January, you announced this bid to buy TikTok. Talk about what you wanted out of that deal, what you saw as the opportunity in buying TikTok.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty awesome opportunity because, since 2019, we've been building the technology I just referred to. So we brought together all these brilliant technologists and put them to work. And so they created a new protocol and a full stack of a alternative to the existing internet, one where you and I would own ourselves again. We'd own our data, we'd permission its use and so forth. And this is a just a fundamental shift in the paradigm. And just, by the way, this is just technology, so it can work any way we want it to work. Exactly. You just decide what you're going to optimize for, and then you go ahead and design something and build it. So we built it. Now, the challenge, of course, and it was not a simple task, and we put lots of resources on that to do that. But the more challenging task is to get people to adopt it. Mm-hmm. So when this legislation was passed to ban TikTok or require it be sold without the Chinese technology, it just was incredibly serendipitous because we have technology coincidentally built that doesn't need the Chinese technology, whereby we could buy TikTok without the algorithm and move the 170 million users and their data over to our stack, and we would have solved a major national security issue and spun up an alternative internet. That's a real alternative. And so that's what was so exciting to us about doing this, and why we entered the fray and put forward a very clean bid that would qualify under the legislation. So in other words, a certifiable bid, a qualified bid for TikTok.
So things are moving very quickly. By the time this airs, it's possible that the story will have moved beyond where we're at today. But at this point, there is a deal that the White House says both U.S. and Chinese officials have agreed to, where there will be this U.S.-based joint venture with majority American investors. And they will be taking control of TikTok's assets and essentially be licensing the Chinese algorithm technology. They say they'll retrain it on U.S. user data. They'll be monitoring how it serves up content to users. What does this deal mean for your bid? Are you involved with these conversations still? Where are you at?
I think it's all still very fluid. I feel that, and I've asked and engaged some really smart people to analyze as best they can with the information available, because there's still missing pieces, what this all means. Mm-hmm. Is this proposed deal compliant with the legislation? Does it in fact do what the legislation intended or not? Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to determine all that so that we can better understand the situation. And at the end of the day, what's important to me is that that the rule of law in this country still means something. Mm-hmm. And so it's a bit early to comment on some of these things because of the fluid nature of the situation, because of the limited facts that are available to you or I. I'm hoping that more information will be shared. I think that whatever's done here should be done in the open, in a very transparent way. And then I'll be able to better answer your question once I better understand the facts and what the deal looks like and what it means. And in particular, does it comply with the law?
As you're evaluating, is there a world where you seek to join this investor group, or is there a world where you potentially try to challenge this deal if you feel like it doesn't actually comply with the law?
Again, I think it's too early to say for sure. I want to have a better understanding before I make any decisions. The one thing I can say for sure is I would not join a bid that didn't comply with the law. Mm-hmm.
As we sort of await more information about this TikTok deal, you have started to think about the next phase of the internet, the AI era. Give me an overview of what you're working on now in that space.
Yeah, let's take a half a step back and think about what's happening now in the world around us and with technology that impacts us. We're moving from a app-centered internet or an app-centered web to an agentic web. And it's likely 5 years from now we're not even using apps. Mm-hmm. We're using agents. But the fundamental set of issues that we're concerned about and Project Liberty is focused on remain the same. Who owns our personal data? And who gets to use it for what reason? And who benefits from the use of that data? we all know now for sure that our personal data is massively valuable in the aggregate. So the fundamental issues that Project Liberty is fighting for remain exactly the same. Now, it turns out that the technology we've been building works just as well, perhaps even better, in an agentic web as it does in an app-centric web. And the reason I say that is that when you have 30 years, roughly, of entrenched technology, which we've been living with, it's hard to change it. When the technology shifts and you move into another phase or another generation of the technology, everything is up for grabs. It's white space. So we can impact the design of the future technology far more easily than impacting 30 years of entrenched technology. So our technologists now are working very, very hard to actually focus on the agentic web and make sure that in this new world that we're now in the early stages of, the information we're all sharing with chatbots, for instance, will be information that remains ours and not become the property of the underlying platform. Think about how all this is working. These large language models, these LLMs, are generic. They know nothing about you and I. When we engage with them, however, through chatbots, we're sharing very real information about ourselves. And unlike the information we shared in the app-centric web, which was a lot, so much that these platforms could actually profile us, they profiled us by drawing inferences about us based on the voluminous information that they were gathering about us. With chatbots, it's no longer even inference. We're talking to these chatbots. We're asking questions, answering questions, asking more questions, answering more questions, giving more information, sharing our thoughts, sharing our feelings, even developing a relationship with these chatbots. With social media, we used it, and we've learned that it's become quite harmful. With these chatbots, we're developing a relationship with them. It's even more insidious in the sense that it draws us in a more intimate way with these underlying LLMs. The LLM becomes valuable to us when we share information with it. Think of your data as both a human right and a property right. It is who you are. Nobody should own you. And it's very valuable. You and I should benefit from the value of this data. And again, I just couldn't feel more strongly about this issue.
Yeah, I think that point about the difference between how social media works and how AI systems work is going to be so important. Whereas before, in the worst case scenario, you could have, a social media platform gathering the fact that a teenage girl has an eating disorder based on what she's clicking on and what she's watching, and then potentially serving her ads to sell her something or harmful content. Now you potentially have teenagers just telling chatbots that information. And I think that does open up a whole new avenues of how these platforms could use that information.
It takes predatory behavior to a different level. And this is why I think it's so important that we all kind of wake up to this set of issues and do something about it. And because we just can't head in the same direction. And let me say, I'm pro-technology, massively so. We've been building it for my family for, like I said, over 130 years. This is not about tech is bad and we can't have it. This tech could be fabulous.
Right.
It could be game-changing for humanity if it's used correctly. But the tech shouldn't be enslaving us. It should be empowering us. It shouldn't be exploiting us. It should be making people's lives better.
So tell me a bit more about how your technology works and how it's going to change users' experiences when they are navigating the internet or chatting with chatbots. Is it like you'll now have a wallet or a dashboard where you get to control your data and you say, platform X, you can use the fact that I really like New York restaurants. I'll give you that piece of data and please send me advertisements because I would like to see them, but don't advertise based on the health conversations I've had with you. Like, talk to me about what it's going to look like.
Yeah, let's put it in terms of a kind of a real life metaphor that I think everybody can understand. If you're a athlete playing for the NFL and it's time to negotiate your contract, or you want to make sponsorship deals or this or that, and you hire an agent, right? You hire an agent that works for you. Mm-hmm. You don't hire an agent that works for the NFL, right? So right now, we're hearing about these AI agents. It's really a misappropriation of a term, because when you hear agent, you think, okay, that must be working for me.
Right.
These are agents that work for big tech. We need AI agents that work for you and I. So they call it a sovereign AI agent, or our own personal agent, or our executive agent, or our CEO agent, whatever you want to call it. But it's an agent with a fiduciary responsibility to one person, you. And that agent then is operating on your instructions. And it's very simple. You just say, this is what I want to achieve. This is what I'm willing to share, not share, do, not do, et cetera. And you can alter that over time. You can rescind permission. The agent works for you. Mm-hmm. So there's one agent that would really matter, and that's your fiduciary agent, the agent that is responsible only to you. And let that agent interact with all the other agents. So the agent would be expert at doing it. You get to live your life without being surveilled 24/7, without having your information scraped from you, without being manipulated, and so forth. So you'll have someone who's protecting you.
So it's sort of like this protective layer around your information that as you navigate the internet, as you interact with different platforms, that agent is going to be sort of the boundary that says this information you can use, this information you can't use. Is that the idea?
That's the idea, but it goes further than that. It's also designed in such a way that agent is able to communicate with all the LLMs. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you need to use, Grok and you're stuck on X, or ChatGPT and you're stuck on OpenAI, and so on and so forth. We've argued in the past that apps should be interoperable and our data should be portable. I would say it's even more important now, where you're able to move from LLM to LLM. So if your agent, if you want to be online with a chatbot, the one that matters to you, you should be able to have a conversation with Grok, or with OpenAI, or with Gemini, or Llama, and just have a continuous conversation.
Right.
Because you can move between them, because the information that is being built up in your so-called, your profile, it's called context in AI terms, is yours, not theirs. And so your agent has all the information that can interact with all of these LLMs. What they're all doing right now, these AI platforms, is trying to move as fast as they can to grab us on their particular LLM so that they own us yet again. Because if you're on one of these LLMs for 3 or 4 years, sharing all this information, you're going to be reluctant.
Right. It knows you so well. You don't want to go and talk to a different LLM.
You don't want to start all over and share everything
Yeah.
about yourself. It's like being in a physical relationship with somebody, right? You invest a lot in those relationships, and they mean something. So we don't want to be owned yet again by these platforms.
So if the goal is to allow people to use these various LLMs, does that require partnering with these big AI companies? And are they on board with that? Have you had those conversations?
There's going to be a whole new economic paradigm, is my prediction. If we continue down the path big tech wants us to go, we know what the economic paradigm is going to be. It's going to be advertising. right? Because eventually they've spent all this money, invested all this money. They're going to want to make money, and they know everything about us, so they're going to do the same thing they did before. It's going to be basically an ad tech economy on steroids. It doesn't have to be that way either. We have now 20 of the smartest economists in the world working as a council for Project Liberty, inventing the economy of the future. Think of it as a data sharing economy where the platforms can make lots of money, but the individuals who are providing the data to power these platforms can also share in that economics. So it's just a new sharing arrangement that takes place. And I can't tell you exactly how it's going to play out, but there's now technology available. For instance, you know how your electric meter works in your apartment or your home? You're using electricity all the time. You don't think about necessarily how much electricity you're using in your home at exactly this moment in time, but your electric meter knows, right? And then at the end of the month, the meter's read by the utility and you get a bill. Think of the opposite. Think of you're sharing data all the time. You don't think about the value of that data minute by minute, but that value could be calculated at the end of a month, and you could receive a payment for that. So there'll be a way for individuals to share in the bargain here.
So in this new economy that you're envisioning here, we may still have online ads. It's just that the people whose data is fueling those ads are potentially going to get a cut of the revenue that these tech companies are making from that advertising business, and potentially a cut of the revenue that the companies are when the companies are using their data to train their models, that sort of thing. That's the idea.
That's half of the idea.
Okay.
The other half of the idea is there's nothing wrong with ads. People will want ads. I want ads when I've actually said to, communicated with a company or the internet and said, show me, okay, I want to buy a pair of shoes.
Right.
Okay. Here's my shoe size. Here's the sneaker I want to buy. Here's the brand. Here's the color, this and that. I'm happy to get information from wherever on who can fill that order for me at the best price. So it's not about ads are not bad. Ads that are derived from targeting people and drawing inference, or now in the agentic web, actually, knowing people, owning them, and then targeting them, and they're sending an ad before you even know you wanted the sneakers, right? Because they know you so well, they know that tomorrow you're going to want them because they've been able to predict that, right? I don't like the targeting and the creepy nature of that. I love the signaling. I want some sneakers. Show me what you have, and I can then make a decision. But so it's really the inherent way it works that's problematic. The fact that the data has value and data can be monetized and I can share in that value is, for me, cherry on the cake. It's like, let's stop the technology that is targeting us, surveilling us, and pushing stuff our way, and now manipulating us worse. Yeah. Let's have an internet where you signal your interest and say, hey, what do you have? I want sneakers. And you get your best buy.
Do you have a timeline in terms of when you think that users might be able to get their hands on your executive agent?
Yeah, I'm hoping very quickly, because as it turns out, the technology that we've been building is highly suitable for everything I'm just talking about. It actually works better in the true agentic web. I think we need to take what big tech has done around trying to co-opt a term and saying this agentic web, and it's not really agentic for us. It's agentic for them, right? These chatbots are super apps. Let's really make it an agentic web where individuals own and control their personal data and they're sharing it on their terms. And this to me is a very, very powerful moment.
And how do you reassure people that you are not just another billionaire who wants access to their data if they use your technology?
Well, I doubt the technology that they'll be using is the sovereign app or the fiduciary app will be our technology. If it's ours, it will likely be something that we will have gifted.
It's a layer underneath.
It's something that it should, if it's going to work for you, it probably, you don't want it to be a for-profit thing. Where the profit will come from or the value will be created will be down lower in the stack. So kind of the infrastructure and by the way, all the other apps that are going to be operating out of sight, out of mind, will all be interesting products that will be money making for people. There should be millions of developers here working in this new world. We've created some technology in the stack that I think will be valuable to help. I hope to help enable this. But the app that I'm talking about, which works for you, should not be owned by me.
That's not where the value is coming from.
Well, the value to you is coming from that as an individual, as a human being,
Right.
and that's really the most important point we can make here, right? Nobody should own you. And there's a lot of plumbing here to make all this work. But if you use water as an example, it's a lot of plumbing to get the water from the reservoir into the city, under the streets, to the homes, and then through the home to the sink. What the person who's using the water cares most about is that when they turn on the tap, clean water comes out. Human beings need water to live. At this stage of the game, we need the internet to live. And we should be getting a clean, healthy internet that empowers us, not exploits us.
Yeah, I really appreciate this effort because it feels like so much of the tech that we're seeing in the AI era is a solution in search of a problem. But it feels like your project has really rooted in a problem that then you found the solution for. So Frank McCourt, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, Claire, nice to be with you.